like this. There we go. Okay, hi again. So good to see everyone like this, and what I call our little Brady Bunch, little, I don't know, what do you call them, our little square. So good to see everyone, and thanks everyone for wearing Hawaiian today. Although it's 10 degrees out there, and we can't. Well, at least we can try to pretend, right? So, if this were later, I'd say get a Mai Tai, but it's a little early for all of that. So we'll go ahead and oh, Karen's saying it is not. Here you go, grab your Mai Tai or whatever your beverage of choice is. But thanks again for being with us. So we'll go ahead and get started. Thanks for joining us again. We have a 3-part series that's coming up. We're starting today, which we're super excited about. A little bit different than what we've done since we've gone virtual the last few times. There'll be some interactive rooms that we'll break out into, and we'll have our speaker in between there sometimes. So I'm really excited about that. We'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsors. Our education mentoring sponsors are Toyota Financial and PayPal. Showcase sponsor, you know what, I'm sorry, education mentoring is Intel and Toyota. Showcase sponsor is PayPal, venue sponsor is Soho, and I know we're all craving to get back there to meet with each other personally, and hopefully that'll be sooner than later. So keep that in your prayers. And then supporting sponsor is APS. And I also want to give a big, huge shout out to the Women in Leadership Committee. They do such a fabulous job in putting this whole luncheon or meeting together. So Debbie Salas, if you can raise your hand. Debbie Salas, she is with Intel Corporation, and she is our co-chair, Women in Leadership co-chair for this year. Dia Kobos, Toyota Financial, I don't see her here. Crystal Blackwell, can you raise your hand, please, with Crystal Clear Results Life Coaching. Lisa Scott with PayPal, if you can raise your hand. And then Lance, I'm not seeing Lance today either, but a great big thank you to all of you. Without you, we couldn't put this on. So with that said, excuse me, we're going to go ahead and get started. Here's how today's going to go. We'll have 2 breakout sessions. So we'll get to a breakout session, then we'll come back, and it's really a meet and greet, just as if we were at Soho. So it's going to be a meet and greet. We'll have facilitators in each room who will ask you some questions, get to know you, just like we would be at Soho. So if you can imagine that. With Karen, she is serving the Mai Tai. So we'll go ahead and do that together, and then we'll do another breakout session. So with that, Mia, if you can go ahead and break this out into our rooms.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for having me. Hello, everyone. I'm so used to doing this talk in person, but I'm really grateful that we have the technology. I can kind of see most of your beautiful faces. Can everybody see my screen fully, the PowerPoint that's pulled up? If I could get a few nods.
Hold on.
No.
No.
Oh, okay.
Nope.
Press share again.
Okay, let me pull it, or oops. Thought I had shared my screen. Let's see.
There we go.
Okay, you can
Yeah.
see it, and I'm going to
Yeah.
put it on presentation mode. Okay, perfect.
There
So
we go.
yeah, wonderful. All right. And if you can't hear me or see anything, just let me know. You should have been emailed a health survey. So if you don't mind pulling that up, and if you don't have it, I'll actually pull it up on my screen as well. If we could just take less than 2 minutes to just fill it out. It's really just a survey for you to assess where you're at currently in your health. And it's a very brief, it's nothing extensive, and it's for you to keep. But I want you to, if you'd like, take notes as we go throughout the PowerPoint, and also keep in mind just which area or areas you might want to optimize. And at the end, we'll do another activity with it. So to show you what that looks like, if you can see this on my screen. The very first question is, so you're going to rate on a scale of 1 to 10 each of these areas. So the first one is with sleep. So do you have any difficulty falling asleep or staying asleep? Do you wake up refreshed on a weekly basis? Where would you rate your sleep health? And so 1 would be very poor sleep, interrupted sleep. 10 would be I sleep like a rock. There's no issues going on with my sleep. The second one is energy. So what are your energy levels like throughout the day? Do you need caffeinated drinks to get you through a day? Do you have a mid-afternoon slump? Are you exhausted or wired by the end of the day? What's going on with your energy levels? So give yourself a score on that. And then the third one is fitness. So we're not talking about bodybuilder being fit, but just are you having movement throughout your day on any given day of the week? Like on average, what would you say your fitness level is at? And then the next area is digestion. So do you have persistent gas, bloating, indigestion, heartburn, constipation, diarrhea, or any slew of those digestive symptoms on a day-to-day basis again? And then the next area is hormone health. So for the women, any menstrual cycle issues or any menopausal concerns. And then for the men, have you noticed an increase in body fat, muscle weakness, fatigue, or low libido? Because those are usually low testosterone symptoms. And then joints and muscles. So are you having consistent joint or muscle pain? And again, I know a lot of people think like having joint pain is a product of becoming older, but not necessarily. So where would you rate your joint and muscle health? And then the next one is relaxation, self-care. So are you the type that can just relax, or do you get like, what do you call it? Like, do you get high strung just hearing the word meditate? Because some people are like, I can't even like think of meditating because I can't even shut my mind off. So how well do you relax? And then the next one is mood. So on an average day, where would you rate your mood? Do you have fluctuations between anxiety, fear, which I know right now things are pretty nutty out there, but where would you say your mood is? Do you live in a certain state like depression or anger on a frequent basis? And then last but not least is, how is your memory, ability to focus and make decisions? Is it difficult for you to stay on track, or would you say you have pretty good concentration and focus? And then when you're done with those, just tally it up and see what score you get. And if it's anything under an 80, that's where I would suggest and encourage you to just take some notes. And again, this is to bring awareness, and hopefully the intention for today's talk is that you'll walk away with some actionable strategies that you can implement starting today. And many of them which we already know about, but I really want to give you a different slant on it at least, or to inspire you to take on 1 or 2 of these self-care practices to really make that difference in your health. So thank you so much for doing that. And like I said, hold on to that piece of paper. We will revisit it at the end of the talk. But what I'd like to start with is just by asking a quick question, which is, Um, what would you say causes illness? And if one or two of you can just shout out a couple of different responses of what do you think is the reason why we get sick in our society?
Stress.
Stress.
Stress. What else?
Worry.
Worry.
Which
Anxiety.
relates to stress.
Sleep, lack of quality sleep.
Oh
Poor
yeah, that's a big
nutrition.
one. Lack of quality sleep. And then one more.
Poor nutrition.
Yes, poor nutrition. All right, so those are really great factors, and that's definitely all reasons why we get sick. And here's a fun term. If you haven't heard of this term, it's called epigenetics, and it's the study of how our environment and our lifestyle impacts our genes and the way that our genes express themselves. So in our healthcare model, we've been told like, oh, you have a genetic susceptibility. Like if you have type 2 diabetes in your family history or thyroid issues, then you're more than likely to develop those. And that's true in terms of you're more prone to develop them. However, if you take a look at this graph, it shows that genetics are only 15% of the reason why you'll become sick. The rest of it, which is 85%, is due to your environment. So there's so much research coming out on how our lifestyle and just the daily trends that we have shift our genes on a moment to moment, day to day basis. So even if your great grandfather and grandfather and father had type 2 diabetes, it doesn't mean you have to develop that disorder. You can definitely turn off the genes for that based upon how you implement actions every day. And even if you've already been diagnosed with a certain disorder, for the most part, you can reverse it. Again, depending on which disorder we're talking about, but most common conditions we can absolutely reverse and heal up our cells and become healthier versions of ourselves. So the next fancy term, which is, so in terms of what you mentioned about diet and lifestyle, we're going to focus on that today. And then also another fancy word is emunctories, and this term refers to our organs of elimination. So the way that we're able to detox and get rid of toxins, since nowadays we're bombarded by so many toxins, is really key. So we have our lungs, which we expel carbon dioxide, kidneys, which we expel urine, digestive tract, stool. Skin is actually one of our largest organs of elimination, which we can get rid of sweat, and that's another way to detox. And even though emotions, technically, they're not an organ, it's another way that we can effectively detox negativity out of our system. But the point of this slide is to show you that, again, in our society, we have a ton of toxins that we deal with from the environment, from our food supply, from the air, the water, and then on top of that, the stressors that we're experiencing, especially in the last few months, they can build up. And once these stressors and toxins build up, that's when disease can set in. However, the better that we're able to eliminate the toxins is how we can pretty much maintain our health. But what happens a lot of time is that these organs are not eliminating properly, and then ultimately they back up and create further and deeper disease states. So we'll start off with stress, because that seemed to be like the number one factor that a lot of you mentioned. And we all know stress is bad for us, right? But I just want to share just a few areas that stress affects. So number one, I'm a huge proponent of gut health. And so it affects your digestive function, which your gut is the hub of your health, and it impacts every single system of your body. So for instance, when you're chronically stressed out, you produce less gastric acid or hydrochloric acid, so you're not able to break down your proteins. When it comes to immune function, you're not able to offset the pathogens as well when you have low stomach acid. Also, there's a lot of great bacteria in our gut, and when we're chronically stressed, it throws off that balance, which sets you up for a lot of different health conditions. Specifically, stress can lower your immune cell function. It can stop the production of immune cells and disrupt how they function. And nowadays, again, with the pandemic, we've been under a multitude, an array of different stressors. So if you were stressed before, now you've been dealing with a lot of new stressors. And so just as important as it is to wear a mask and wash your hands and all of that, I think we really have to focus heavily on managing our stress levels to stay as strong as possible, our immune system for it to stay as strong as possible. When it comes to blood pressure, does anyone know what day of the week most people have a heart attack on?
Monday, isn't it?
Yeah, why is it Mondays?
People are stressed out about the week going to work.
That, and a lot of people don't like what they do, so they're already stressed about going into work. So when you're chronically stressed, it increases your blood pressure, sets you up for cardiovascular issues. When you're stressed, you might have noticed you have more sleep disruptions. So stress can definitely create insomnia. And then weight gain. I know that's a pretty big topic, especially in the last few months too. If you've been doing a weight loss protocol or wanting to lose weight, one area that I would highly suggest is to look at your stress levels, because stress can cause you to gain weight by affecting various hormones in the body, including your thyroid hormone, including insulin, including your appetite hormones, ghrelin, leptin. So stress can really disrupt a lot of other types of hormones. And then the scary part of it is too that it can, in the long term, literally shrink your brain and affect the connections between the brain. So they've done studies on people with Alzheimer's disease, and they looked at their previous lifestyles, and people that were chronically stressed, had chronic sleep deprivation, developed Alzheimer's disease. Not to scare you, I just want to like share some little factoids to keep in mind why these lifestyle factors are really crucial for us. So what are some factors that contribute to high stress levels? As I mentioned, gut health. So if you have an imbalance in your gut bacteria, these gut bacteria, interestingly enough, produce these chemicals or neurotransmitters that our brain uses to keep us nice and calm, relaxed, focused. Like, you would never think that your gut would impact your brain, but there's a lot of connection between those two. Nutritional deficiencies and excesses. So if you're not receiving enough of the right vitamins and minerals from your diet, and on top of that, if you're getting too much of the bad nutrients, like too much sugar, too much caffeine, that can cause imbalanced stress levels. If you have some kind of a physical trauma, an injury like a car accident, and you're in a ton of pain on a daily basis, that can spike up your cortisol, which is your stress hormone. Environmental toxins. So I'm going to talk a bit about that throughout this talk, but added toxins can throw off cortisol. And then I love delving into the mental, emotional, spiritual piece to health with my patients, because that's just as important as your diet and your lifestyle, is what's going on in your mind and your heart. So if there's any kind of trauma you haven't dealt with, micro trauma, thought patterns that are negative, that can also create daily stress that a lot of times we're not even aware of. So here are a few strategies to help with stress. Number one is nutrition. And again, I'm a huge proponent of getting your nutrition from a well-balanced whole foods diet, which again, for the majority of us, it should be good amount of protein, good amount of healthy fat, vegetables, fruits, a little bit of grains, but each of us, depending on our genetic variations, we will have targeted nutrition that will suit us better than the next person. So I'm not a fan of those fad diets, or even the diets like paleo or keto for every single person, because I think that there's still variation in our biochemistry. But anyway, to tell you about some of these nutrients that combat stress, B vitamins are huge. Vitamin B and C actually are huge for helping with those feel-good neurotransmitters and neurotransmitters that help with the stress response. And B vitamins in particular help support your adrenal glands, which produce cortisol, your stress hormone. Vitamin D, you're going to see this one pop up in the next few sectors of my talk. It has so many different roles in the body. It's incredible. But even when it comes to stress, vitamin D can stop the overproduction of cortisol. And vice versa, if you're too stressed, chronically stressed, it can prevent the absorption of your vitamin D. So vitamin D is a really important one when it comes to stress, but also other functions of the body. Magnesium is an excellent mineral to help with reducing stress and keeping your nervous system nice and calm. So that's usually one that I give to people, especially with sleep disturbances before bed. When we're stressed, we're creating a lot of what we call oxidative stress or inflammation in the body. So antioxidants are really helpful to combat that. And omega-3s, like your fish oils, are also a really great way to lower inflammation that's contributed by stress. And omega-3s are an excellent protocol for a depressed mood and cognitive function as well. So any questions so far before I move on?
Okay, I have one quick question about vitamin D. My name is Dia. I had heard from my doctor that an ADK combination is most effective. Does that depend on where you are and what you need?
I would say yes. I've seen combinations like that, but again, I would say it would need to be individualized, especially if it's a higher vitamin A and K ratio. I wouldn't give that to just every person, depending on, like, for instance, if they have cardiovascular issues or whatnot. So yeah, I would say it would depend.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
And I also have a question in regards to these nutrients. Is this like a multivitamin type of thing, or are these like there's certain amounts that are better for you in each of these, or are these just separate ones that you could take?
Yeah.
Like, how would you be able to, does it depend on your body? Like, how would you know what to take?
Yes, that's a great question. So I would say that for the average person, again, number one, getting this from your food source, but two, if you could have a very high quality multivitamin that contains like your B vitamin, C, magnesium, and then taking a fish oil on the side would be good. But then again, depending on what your body needs, and that's when working with someone would be helpful, but you can also experiment on your own at low doses and build up. So if you have chronic fatigue, you might need higher ratios of B vitamin. Or if your vitamin D levels are really low, then you want to do a higher dose vitamin D to bring those levels up and then be on a maintenance dose. And same thing, magnesium. A lot of us are depleted, so I would say that having a higher dosage is good, but then you can see how your body responds to it. But I would always say start out a little bit lower and then see how you do versus going on a higher dosage and then having side effects from it.
Great, thank you.
And also, real quick, the fat-soluble vitamins, I definitely wouldn't experiment with at a higher dose. So vitamin D, K, A, and E, you want to be pretty cautious about at higher dosages. All right. Those are great questions. Thank you for asking. So the second strategy is environmental detox. And I'm pretty big on this because, again, most of us don't know about all the toxins in our homes, in our cars, and in our office spaces that are bombarding us on a day-to-day basis. And specifically when it comes to stress in the brain, you can, and I hope you guys can see this, but things like flame retardants, insecticides, heavy metals, BPA, can impact different regions of the brain. And specifically, they can actually, there's studies showing that it disrupts our stress response. So if you think that you're not handling stress well, one area to look at would be what's in my environment. Is it mold? Is it, I have a heavy spraying of insecticides outside of my apartment or home? Am I getting too many plastic products in via my diet and via my personal care products? So that's just one thing to keep in mind when it comes to mitigating stress. And so what you can do to limit these, because again, no one lives in a toxic free environment unless you live in a whole bubble, is number one, you want to eat organic as much as possible. The biggest barrier that I get is like organic is expensive or I don't believe in organic, but I will tell you that there is testing that can show us whether these insecticides and pesticides are actually affecting you or not. So that's one objective way we can measure that. But if you can, as much as possible, eat organic fruits and vegetables. And when it comes to animal products, those wild caught, grass-fed, grass-finished. When it comes to cleaning supplies, really limiting the use of the conventional cleaning supplies, because you're inhaling those chemicals in. Avoiding as much as possible anything with BPA in it. So avoiding plastic water bottles. I don't know if you've seen, but I carry this like huge jug. It's stainless steel. So either you could do a glass or stainless steel bottle. And then nonstick pots and pans. I know it's convenient, but they offset a lot of chemicals too. And then when it comes to household furniture, there's a lot of chemicals in those. And also for the majority of the women, but even men, we use deodorants, we use shaving creams, makeup, hairspray, all of that. So take a look and take an inventory about the types of products you use, because all of that, either you're inhaling or you're absorbing through your skin. And again, over time, there's a potential that those toxins build up and create illness. I'm not saying it's 100% just because you're using a certain product, you're going to become sick, but it's a compounding effect that can occur. So strategy number 3 when it comes to stress is routine. I can't emphasize how much having a routine, which I understand with the pandemic, we've all had to kind of shift to a new normal. I totally understand that, and that's been very stressful for a lot of us. But if you can, your adrenal glands will thank you for this. The more routine you have during the day, the less stress you should be experiencing. So what I would suggest is taking a look at your weekly schedule and looking at what's sucking up the majority of your time on a day-to-day basis, and really creating systems or streamlining the processes for those tasks. So either delegating them if you can, or figuring out a different way that you can do those tasks. Again, sometimes it's easier said than done, but just to be aware of what is it about my week that takes up the majority of my time, and is it causing me stress? And then I'm sure all of you have read multiple books and you've done a lot of leadership courses, but this whole time blocking your priorities, that's really helpful. And also one that I really have started to implement is getting your top 3 priorities for that day done before noon. So that way you can just get it off your mind and go on about the rest of your day. And then habit formation. So as I'm mentioning these different strategies, I know it can, for some people, be a little overwhelming, like where do I start and how do I go about doing this? I'm already so busy, blah, blah, blah. But really it's about taking tiny baby steps and pairing a small habit to a habit you already are doing. So let's say you're like, I need to drink more water, or I need to exercise more. Then pair it with a habit you already have. So if you make your morning cup of coffee, drink a glass of water after your cup of coffee, or before you read your first email of the day, go for a walk, or do something to kind of pair it and start small, and then keep moving forward with that. And I'll share actually a kind of funny, weird story. This was back last year, and I kind of fell out of my routine of going to the gym, and my friend and I would wake up and we'd go to the gym at 6 o'clock in the morning, and we would only go for literally 10 minutes to the gym, and we would do 3 sets and walk out. And I thought we looked so ridiculous for going to the gym for like just 10 minutes, and we looked like complete weirdos. But I'll tell you, after 3 weeks of doing that, I got back into my routine, and I probably wouldn't have if I had said, I'm going to go hard and go for an hour each day. But again, it's all about tiny, tiny steps to get you back into a routine. And then the last thing is transitions. So I read this in a book recently about between toggling emails and phone calls and meetings, take 1 minute to really center yourself, do some deep breathing, and set an intention for your next task. And that will sustain your energy levels as well as mitigate your stress levels throughout the day. So those are just some strategies that you can do on a day-to-day basis. And then the next is movement. So it's been frustrating to have the gyms be closed. However, nature's still open, and even though it's Arizona and it's like sweltering hot, if you can get out first thing in the morning, last thing at night, or thankfully, again, because of technology, there's so many YouTube videos. I listened to a gal in our breakout session about, she owns bar studios, and they're doing virtual workouts. So you can absolutely still get your exercise in during this pandemic. It's not as motivating, but if you just push yourself a little bit and hold yourself accountable to somebody else, you can still get your movement in throughout the day. But what I would recommend is doing some form of aerobic, some form of strength training, and some form of relaxation. So even if you just did a minimum of one of each every week, you would still get really beneficial results in regards to lowering your stress, because when we work out, we release those feel good neurotransmitters, endorphins. However, I will say, if you are really stressed out over a long period of time, doing too much of an intense workout can actually work against you. So that's why checking your cortisol levels is really encouraged before you engage in any kind of intense exercise routine. All right. Has anybody heard of earthing or grounding?
I've heard of it.
Yes.
So there's some, I don't know if anybody's actually practiced it, but there's some really good research on this. And literally it just means, just like the word says earthing, you are placing your feet on the earth, whether it's grass, which is kind of hard to find in Arizona, but whether it's grass, gravel, soil, water, sand, something that's on the earth's surface. And doing that for just 20 minutes a day, but for maximum benefit 40 minutes a day, will help to not only reduce your stress, but they've shown physiological changes in the body, like it improves your sleep patterns, reduces pain and inflammation, so that's immune support right there, improves your energy levels, blood flow, your mood. And the theory behind that is that the earth has a lot of these negative electrons, and we throughout the day produce a bunch of these positive molecules that are harmful to us, that back in the day when we used to sleep on the ground and walk barefoot, we would get rid of naturally. But nowadays we're wearing these leather soled shoes and we sleep on mattresses, so we're not grounded to the earth. So they're saying that another area, a reason why we're experiencing so many diseases, is because we're not as connected. And you might have noticed when you go on vacation or you go hiking or camping, you just feel so refreshed. And that's part of the reason why, because you literally are out in nature getting grounded. So if you're not able to, depending on, like, let's say if you didn't live in Arizona and it's freezing outside, or right now, I wouldn't recommend grounding in the middle of the day because you'll burn your feet, but you can get conductive mattress pads. There's blankets that ground you. There's now shoes that are grounding shoes. So there's lots of ways to get around that as well. But the best way is to be out in nature. Okay. So this strategy we're actually going to do together. Again, this is something we've all heard, to take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. And I'm sure some of you have engaged in different breathing practices. This is one that I found a bunch of research on in terms of it lowering your stress levels by activating your parasympathetic response, which is your rest and digest. And it's called RVNS breathing. So essentially, it's a longer exhalation to an inhalation ratio. So you're going to take a nice inhalation in for about 4 seconds. If you wanted, you could go longer, and then exhale really slowly for a minimum of 8 counts. But if you can exhale longer, great. And then you can do that for about 2 minutes. And just that in and of itself will lower your stress levels. But also I listed a bunch of other benefits that they found through their research. And again, when it comes to immune support, because a lot of us are thinking, how can I support my immune system? Oxygen is absolutely one beneficial thing to do to support your immune system. It has so many benefits. And just a random like nerd factoid, like our body actually produces hydrogen peroxide itself. I think that's fascinating. So if you guys want to take a minute or less, just take 4 seconds of inhaling right now, and then exhale really slowly. And if you have a Fitbit or some kind of other device, you could always track to see what your heart rate and your oxygen saturation are doing. But just take a second to do that. Okay. So you can practice that more later on your own, but I just wanted to introduce you to it. And I will say a little side story real quick. Back in February, I was practicing for a workshop. I do some really interesting things sometimes. So part of this retreat was to go to Sedona and submerge yourself in ice cold water. And it was, I think, 40 degrees at that time, like really cold water. And the only way I actually got through being in that water for about 4.5 minutes was this technique and setting my mind to it. But I am not a cold temperature person at all. So I'm telling you, this technique works really well. And then the last strategy for this is mindset. So if you find yourself having persistent and repetitive thought patterns on a day-to-day basis, again, we go through different stages in life, different stressors come up. But if you notice yourself having a very similar mindset throughout the course of a year, I would highly encourage you to really retrain your brain, because we're capable of doing so. And there's so many different techniques, and I'm not married to any single one. I really suggest that you, if you haven't already, find one that works for you. But things that you could do at home right now are meditation, journaling, affirmations, prayer. Thankfully, there's counseling that's gone virtual. So if you needed professional support, which I would still recommend if you're not able to break through those thought patterns, these techniques do have a lot of good research to them that's been helpful in redesigning your brain and redesigning those thought patterns to really free you up from those subconscious tapes that are having you stressed on a day-to-day basis. And then another area that I would suggest to look into is really identifying your values and having a list of that, so that the next time you're stressed, seeing if are one of your values being compromised, whether it's in a situation or whether in general. And I have a quick activity if you'd like to look into it. Pretty much you would write down one area that is causing you stress at this moment, whether it's your marriage, it's your health, it's your finances, your kids, whatever it is. Write down that area and then write the stress thoughts that are associated with it. So I like kind of doing a little mind map with the stressor in the middle, and then drawing arrows of what the other thoughts associated with it are. And then there's an exercise that I've listed. It's called the 7 levels deep. And it seems very redundant because you're asking the same question, why is it important for you to? But the purpose of this is to really get to the heart of what it is that's really important to you for why this is stressing you out. So you can have a little aha through this strategy if you wanted, but essentially you would say, why is it important for me to have a healthy marriage? Or why is it important for me to be healthy? And you keep running through those questions, and it's better if somebody else is asking you, but you can certainly do this on your own as well. So I just want to check the time real quick. Any questions so far before we move into sleep health? Is everybody still on board? Hopefully I'm not boring you guys. Okay.
We're just absorbing it all, Yasmin. Thank you.
Yes.
Of course. If
It's a
I'm
great
going
data,
to,
Yasmin.
okay, I'm glad. If I'm going too fast or if you want me to skip some places, I will. But next is sleep health. So that's a huge one. And when it comes to, again, if you're thinking about supporting your immune system, especially through this pandemic, your sleep is going to make a huge difference in your immune health. So here are just some effects from the lack of sleep, because some of us don't really, and I know I used to be when I was younger, I didn't really think how important sleep was, but I've learned it can cause the following concerns as just a few factors. It can impair your memory, attention, concentration. So as I mentioned, with Alzheimer's and dementia, if you have consistent sleep disturbances or short sleep durations, you're setting yourself up for potentially earlier onset Alzheimer's. It can affect your mood. It can increase the risk for cardiovascular conditions, low libido. And for the females in the room, we spend a ton of money on our skin health, right? For the lotions and the potions to look young and stay young. But if you're not getting good quality sleep, you're not producing growth hormone and other hormones that keep your skin nice and supple and prevent premature aging. And then last but not least, again, when it comes to weight gain, take a look at your sleep health. Like even if I have a bunch of patients that say they're working out and they're eating right, but they're not losing weight. And when I ask about their sleep, it's usually disrupted. So sleep is a really important part of that model, if that's one of your goals. So what are some causes for sleep disturbances? Number one, I would say, is poor sleep hygiene, which I'll delve into in the next couple of slides. Two is hormonal imbalances. So whether it's your thyroid that's out of balance, your estrogen, progesterone, testosterone levels, or your cortisol, your blood sugar, if different hormones are out of balance, those can all contribute to either not falling asleep or waking up and not staying asleep throughout the night. If you have nutritional deficiencies or excesses, again, you're not receiving enough of the nutrients to calm you down and keep you asleep, or you're getting too much of certain nutrients that are causing your nervous system to be hyperactive. And then inflammation and pain, I kind of touched upon earlier. So if you have shoulder pain, back pain, migraines, whatever it is. And then last but not least, again, your digestive health does play a role in your sleep health. So making sure that if you have any kind of digestive issues, that you address that. So anybody?
Yasmin, I'm going to just stop you just for one quick moment. I know I am loving this, and a lot of the ladies have messaged me privately that we're loving this. We're a little bit behind in time. How many more, but we're okay. How many more slides do you have?
Ooh,
Because here's what, several. So if we can, Mia, just for a moment so I can see everyone, all of our guests, I think what I'd like to do is just kind of see everyone for a moment. Can one of you gals make that happen? There we are. Can we see everyone? Let me put you in gallery. So just by raise of hands, just a little bit of a vote. I know everyone's really enjoying this. Would it be safe to say, let's continue on and forego the second round of meet and greet? Yep, okay. Okay, so we'll go ahead and do that. So we're not like anxious for time. Is that good?
sure. And how much time do I have left, just so I know to speed it up a little bit?
Mia?
About 15 minutes.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I can definitely run through it in 15 minutes.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, everyone. Sorry to interrupt there, but wanted to get it.
I'm glad. All right. So has anybody practiced sleep hygiene or knows about sleep hygiene? Miss Crystal, what have you incorporated so far? Can't hear you.
I go to bed the same time every night as much as possible, and my friends and family know that. I make sure I have like a routine, and it takes me like a half an hour to get there. And when I started that, I started sleeping longer hours. And I set a goal, like I set like a sleep goal. Like I was determined to get my 8 hours, and I wasn't initially, but now I do, because I'm pretty strict about, my sleep schedule and my time. At the same time every night, unless something's going on. Even then, that kind of annoys me, but I still, I reset and go back to it.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's actually one of my number one for sleep hygiene habits. I'm so glad you incorporated that and have been strict about it. That's wonderful.
I also have a similar routine, but mine also includes going electronics free for a certain amount of time before I go to bed, so that I can help my brain to shut down and then do all my evening things and just be quiet and, in a darkened but not completely dark room, so that I can start just that slow kind of calming down for myself. And then my sleep is dramatically improved when I make sure I do that, versus, I get talked into staying up and watching a movie with somebody,
Yeah, I'm so glad. And I love hearing from you guys, because I don't want you to think that I'm just spouting out this information. Like, it actually helps when you've seen the benefit for yourself. So just to run through it really quickly, yes, number one, keep to a regular sleep-wake time. And I would highly suggest that it's before 10 p.m. because the different organs in your body start to detox in 2-hour time frames. So that later you fall asleep, you're putting more strain on those organs. And you'll end up having, even if you get the same 8 hours, it has been shown to make a difference to be in bed before 10 p.m. Using the bedroom just for sleep and sex only, which I know that some people love to have a TV in their bedroom and they're like, there's no way I'm getting rid of my TV, but you just heard that having no electronics makes a huge difference because it shuts down pretty much the brain activity. And if you're watching TV, that light from that TV screen is going to shut down melatonin production, which is a hormone that you need to fall asleep. So avoiding electronics at least an hour before bed, which is easier said than done for a lot of us, but you will notice that difference. And then turning off the Wi-Fi in your house and avoiding any Wi-Fi in the bedroom for sure. So if you have your cell phone in the bedroom, at least put it on airplane mode. And it's super easy to have the Wi-Fi shut down automatically. You can program your router to shut down at a certain time and turn back on at a certain time. And I won't even get into the whole Wi-Fi and EMFs. That would take a whole nother hour for me to discuss that, but be on the lookout for a lot of research showing how that's disrupting our nervous system and it's throwing off our hormones. And then sleeping in a completely dark room. I would say this, as well as keeping the room cool, are two of like the I've seen have the biggest impact with my patients' sleep patterns because again, light will signal the brain to shut off melatonin. So when you have a dark environment, you set yourself up for producing as much melatonin to keep you staying asleep and regulating your sleep cycles. And then a cool room temperature also allows your body to really be in that parasympathetic state. And if you think 65 to 70 degrees is cold, again, baby step your way into it, because I used to be the same way. I used to sleep in 76 degrees all the time. But when I made that shift slowly to 70 degrees, I've noticed a huge difference in my own sleep.
Wow.
And again, I get that, like if you say the bill is too high for keeping the house cool, if it's possible to just do it in your bedroom, ideally, that's really the only area you need it in. And then strategy number 2, again, going back to nutrition. These are just a few little tips for if you want ideal sleep quality. Definitely avoiding eating at least 3 hours before bedtime, unless, again, depending on your individual biochemistry, if your blood sugar is out of balance, you need a little snack, fine. But on the regular, avoiding eating heavy meals at nighttime because you're putting more strain on your organs, you're keeping your digestive system active, and you just won't get as quality sleep. And then a common complaint I hear from my patients is they're waking up 1 to 3 times a night to use the bathroom. So just one simple fix is just limiting your water intake at least an hour before bed.
Yasmin?
Yes.
Hey, just for a moment, can we get you to switch to your presentation too so the gals can see where you're...
Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought I was...
No, that's okay. We interrupted you, but thank you.
Of course. Let me...
Thank you.
Whole new world.
Oh, sorry about that. Okay.
Okay.
So, and then the other thing with nutritional excesses is avoiding excess caffeine, alcohol, sugary foods. So depending, again, on your genes, some people, even though they say alcohol a glass of wine is healthy with dinner and relaxing, some people don't metabolize alcohol well. So if you're one of those people, you're probably going to have sleep disturbances as a result. So again, just being aware of your own body chemistry is really key. And then some of these vitamins that we talked about already, the magnesium, the B vitamins, vitamin D, all will support your sleep health as well. So I'm going a bit quicker just so I get through the presentation, but if you want to stop me at any point, please feel free to do so. The next, again, you're going to see the same patterns, but for different causes. So movement, if you exercise at least 150 minutes a week, you will see an improvement in your sleep quality and duration. So that's 21 minutes a day or just the average 30 minutes for 5 days a week. And we talked about different ways you can exercise, but definitely, again, avoiding exercise 2 hours before bed, because for a lot of people that's problematic. If you're gonna do exercise at night though, I would say do more of a relaxing one and do your aerobics more in the daytime. But again, there's certain individuals that it works better for them to do it in reverse. So that's why we have to practice medicine very individually. And then the third thing is energy. So if you have been experiencing a ton of fatigue, there's a lot of different causes for that. But just to show you, this is a beautiful cell in your body, and it has these tiny little organelles called mitochondria, which produce your energy. And they really require 3 basic things, which we've talked about. So oxygen, water, and nutrients. And for most of us, or the majority of our population in the US, we do not provide them with these basics. And on top of that, we're causing a lot of inflammation and preventing the waste from being released. So same thing, what's going on with low energy is our nutrition is off. And not just the nutrition being off, but I would say poor dietary habits. So meaning that the timing of when you eat, just as important as it is what you're putting into your mouth, is when are you eating it, how are you eating it, the type of environment that you're eating it in. So for instance, if you're constantly eating in front of your screen or when you're stressed out, even if you're eating a nice healthy kale salad, you're probably not going to absorb it as well. Or if you're scarfing down your food and you're not chewing it properly, it makes it so much harder to digest. So it's not just good nutrition, but how you're taking it in and absorbing it into your system as well. And then again, if you have poor gut health, your gut actually, the gut bacteria help produce energy for your body. So making sure that's in good shape. If you have too many toxins build up, that can cause fatigue. Certain medications have side effects that will affect your energy level. So always taking a look at your medication list is important. And then viruses actually hijack the energy centers of our cells. So that's another reason why when you're sick, a lot of the time you experience fatigue. Okay, so going back to nutrition again, here are some other nutritional strategies you can take to increase your energy levels. So avoiding simple carbs would be key. So simple carbs meaning any of those refined and processed grains like cereals, like bagels, candy bars, things like that, that break down into sugar right away. They cause spikes in your blood sugar, and then it causes you to crash after. So simple carbs, and also for breakfast and lunch, limiting carb heavy foods, because that can also disrupt your blood sugar and cause you to feel more fatigued. So what I generally recommend is for breakfast doing a good amount of protein, a healthy fat, fruits. If you wanted vegetables, you could still do a little bit of a carb, but try to keep that minimal. Even though we typically don't have a problem with getting enough protein in our society, some women I've noticed still don't receive enough protein. So generally speaking, 46 grams for women, 56 for men. And the quality of the protein does matter, as I mentioned. So you want to do organic, grass-fed as much as possible to get the most benefit from that protein source. And then healthy fats. So a lot of people have been doing the ketogenic diet and they experience a lot of energy from it because fats give you the biggest bang for the buck when it comes to energy. So eating a good dose of things like avocados, nuts, seeds, nut butters, oils really keep you full for longer and give you more energy in the long haul. Fiber is the food for your gut bacteria to produce fuel for your body. So it's not just to have a nice bowel movement, but fiber literally gives your body energy. So making sure that you're getting at least 25 to 50 milligrams a day of that. And can anyone tell me where we get our fiber from? What kinds of foods contain fiber?
Mostly plants.
Yeah, so our vegetables, our fruits, whole grains can contain fiber, but I would say focusing on those vegetables and fruits would be the best way to get your fiber source. And then does anybody know how much water you should take in for your body weight each day?
Isn't that half your
Half
body?
of your body weight.
Perfect. Yeah.
In ounces, yeah.
Yes, because it used to be just 8 cups of water was the standard, but now it's half your body weight in fluid ounces. So if you're 100 pounds, 50 fluid ounces of water a day. And then, and again, there's like so much more I want to say about each of these topics, but your quality of water does make a difference too, especially in Arizona. I'm originally from New Jersey, and when I moved out here, I tried the tap water and I could not taste the tap water. So make sure you have a good quality filter, because that's another way that you could get toxins in your body. All right, and then micronutrients. So if you are doing all of these things and you still find yourself depleted with energy, that's when we would supplement with different vitamins and minerals, but also depending on your cortisol levels or your thyroid, there's a lot of other targeted herbs and supplements that we can give to boost your energy, but it just depends on what your body needs. And then again, exercise. So one thing that, especially now since most people are working from home, that I'd highly recommend if you're not already doing so, is set a timer on your phone for at least once every hour in the working hour time frame to get up from whatever you're doing, to give yourself not just a mental break, but also blood flow and oxygen, so you could sustain your energy levels and focus throughout the day. I don't know if anybody's heard of the Pomodoro technique. Yeah, that's a great one for students, but also just for you. That's every 20 to 25 minutes. You set a timer for like 5 minutes and then you go back to it, but it's been shown to be super effective in maintaining, again, your focus, concentration, and energy throughout a work span. Lisa, do you have anything further to add about that?
Yeah, so I started, thank you for reminding me. I used that, gosh, 2 or 3 years ago. Really, I was under a lot of stress and I was having a hard time focusing on my work. And so I started using it. And so I've just messaged to everyone is that you can find it, just Google it. Best thing for me was that I don't even remember what it was, but you can put your own alarm. So there's different alarms, and mine was so funny, but like at the every 20 minutes or whatever the time was, it scared the heck until I got used to it. But it was something like "Go girl" or "You did it" or something like that. It was cute and it was funny, but I need to get back to it. But it really did help.
I love that. That's such a creative idea.
Yeah,
I'm gonna do that myself instead of just get up.
yeah, exactly. But it did scare me for a little bit, though. It was funny.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing.
You know, one of the things, I work in a large call center, and so when we were all here in the building, we would have a different challenge once a week. So we do squat challenge once a week, and you do 10 squats at the bottom of every hour. And then we did a plank challenge. And we're still continuing it as we're home. I'm watching our supervisors who have daily chats with their teams. They're plugging some kind of physical movement in every hour to 2 hours to their day. And we can see that team members are really happy with that. Like they have a lot of fun with it. Mm-hmm.
That's a great idea because one, again, you can get your movement in during the day, and two, that's super motivating. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and then
About 5 minutes.
Oh, go ahead. Is anyone going to comment?
Oh, I was just saying, Yasmin, you have 5 minutes.
Okay, perfect. So mindset, again, outside of the physical factors such as nutrition, lifestyle, habits, of why you're not producing enough energy, again, check in with your thought life, because a lot of times, like yesterday, I had a patient that said physically her energy is fine, but mentally she feels drained by the end of the day. So just check in with yourself, see what's sucking your energy emotionally or mentally. And can you see my screen still?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, the last bit is hormones, and I promise I'll fly through this. We've kind of touched upon the hormone side of things too, but again, what is throwing your hormones off, whether it's your thyroid, your sex hormones, your cortisol, and it's, again, the same types of things, whether it's gut imbalance, because your gut will help to process and metabolize estrogens, to process, metabolize thyroid hormone, And I'll show you how the interplay of these work. So this is what I call the hormone love triangle, because if you have an issue in any one of these areas, it's probably impacting another one of your hormones. So for instance, if you have a thyroid issue, it might be, again, because of chronic digestive problems, or it might be because of chronic stress levels that is shutting down the production of thyroid. So what I don't like seeing in our healthcare model is you have low thyroid, so they put you on levothyroxine or Synthroid, versus what is the underlying cause of why your thyroid is not functioning properly. Or same thing here, if you're menopausal, you have low estrogen, or if you're a younger female, you have high estrogen. What's going on with the thyroid and the adrenals and the gut that's throwing these off? So strategy number 1 is identify what else is out of balance. Strategy number 2, again, nutrition. So when it comes to why I keep emphasizing the organic, grass-fed, free range, is yes, it's a couple bucks more, but in the long haul, these products don't contain the added hormones, which are potentially throwing off your own body's hormones. And with fiber, aside from energy and proper stools, fiber will also get rid of excess estrogens that are harmful to you. And seed cycling, man, I don't have time to get into this, but if you want to email me, I can share that strategy with you. And then number 3 is we talked about managing your stress in healthy ways, because that can throw off all your other hormones, following sleep hygiene protocols. And then if you have weight gain, determine why you have weight gain, because it's more than just diet and exercise for most people. Again, if you have toxic buildup, if your hormones are out of balance or your sleep is off, that's another reason why it's hard to lose the weight. And last but not least, another part of the environmental detox bit that affects your hormones is that when you're taking in these hormones, whether it's through food or chemicals, they actually act like your hormones. So a lot of them act like estrogen, and they either cause more estrogen to be produced, or they prevent the actual estrogen in your body from binding to the cell and doing its function. So that's why toxins can be so harmful to us. However, what you can do starting today is, again, daily movement gets rid of toxins via sweating, filtering your water. I know gyms are closed, so saunas are hard to do. But once things open back up, doing a sauna at least once or twice a week. And then now what you could do, though, is doing an Epsom salt bath. I don't know if any of you have experience with it, but not only is it relaxing, but it actually helps you to detox as well. So
quick questions, and I know we're in a hurry. Does alkaline balanced water make a difference?
I believe that it does. However, you don't want to overdo it. So start off slow and then see how your body responds to it. Because it can, if you're doing too much alkaline water, it can throw off the pH of your body. So just, again, see how you feel with taking it in.
Awesome.
Yeah, great question. Yeah. Okay, so when you guys did that initial health survey, I want you to select one area, unless you had like a super like clean bill of health, and just select one, because we all have areas we can improve in, including myself. What's one simple tactic or strategy that you took away from today's presentation that you want to commit to, and circle it, write it down, and then share it with someone, whether it's in the chat box you guys have going on, or whether it's with a spouse, a partner, but really create an action plan to put that into effect. Because if you don't start it today, you're probably not going to do it. And I really want you all to be as healthy and as safe as possible, especially during this time where there's so much going on. And I know that a lot of people say, oh, I don't have the time or the money and all of this, but those honestly, you can work around both of those if you're really committed to better health. And there's so many ways to go about doing that. And last but not least, if I can just mention, if you're interested in a more deeper individualized look, I always like to offer this at the end of my talks, which is an irresistible offer. If you wanted to come in and do a deep dive into your health, 75 minutes, physical exam, you'll get an initial treatment plan, we'll run the labs, but we'll also do a lot of functional tests that, you know, your conventional doctor probably doesn't run. And that is normally $249, but for the people that attend my talks, if you wanted to schedule today, it's $50 off. And again, you're going to walk away with a lot of more individualized information about your specific health. And it's not just to treat your concerns naturally, but it's really to give you the education so that you learn how your body works, so that in the future you prevent illnesses as well. So if you're interested in doing that, you can schedule directly on my website or call and schedule. And I just want to thank you guys so much for being here and inviting me. And I really appreciate it. And I hope you have a great rest of your week coming up. And yeah, thank you, both Mia and Lisa. I really appreciate you.
Well, I'll tell you, yay, right? So good. Thank you. Yeah, you got the vote to stick around instead of chatting it up with other folks. So yeah, thank you. Yeah, I can speak for myself. I think that I could have listened to you for another 2 hours or something. So we'll definitely, when we can all gather together, we will definitely have you back. So thanks so much. And it looks like, a handful of people had to drop off, other commitments and so on. Oopsie. But we'll go ahead and finish up. What did everyone think? Just real quick snippet. Everyone, give a little bit of a, what you thought. Thumbs up. Yeah, good.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I thought it was great. I really enjoyed the tip about nature. You go for a walk, but you don't realize how important it is for you to be connected, your body, and it's beyond even spiritual. Like she was talking about the negative electrons and the positive electrons. I thought that was great information.
Exactly. So as we finish up, if you all wouldn't mind, Mia just put a link in the chat. So if you can give us a little bit of feedback, each and every month, the committee reads through everything. So your feedback is super important to us. We read everything, we absorb it, and we make decisions based on what you ladies and Seth are asking. So with all of that, this month we put everyone's name into a drawing for a chance to win a banner ad. So Mia, if you will do the drawing for that, please.
Hold on one second.
Okay.
Who's it gonna be?
That is so cool. Yes, and
That's all
Yasmin.
the work for you.
Exactly.
Don't believe they're on.
Okay.
Do it again.
One more time.
And Yasmin, while we're waiting, can you put your contact information in the chat box, please?
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you. And Mia, I have any more time, or do we have time, or are we close to done?
Yeah, 5 more minutes. Crystal Blackwell, you won.
Yay, Crystal.
Oh, okay, perfect. So if we can take that out, thanks. So with that said, I know that when we were together at